Hi all, welcome to episode 2 of my story. We've been joined today by Sean Clohessy, ex-professional footballer. Sean, thanks for taking the time to join us, mate.
No problem, mate.
I hope you're well. How's things?
Yeah, everything's good. Coronavirus keeping me on lockdown, but healthy and living life.
Good, mate. Good to hear it. Sean, just obviously it's all about you and your story in football. And just to kick us off, mate, just a bit about how you got into football, where you were playing, and then go on to obviously where you were spotted to start your career at Arsenal Youth Academy.
Yeah, obviously when I was a young lad, football wasn't even in my interest. I was more of a little WWE fan, a little wrestling and that. And just out the blue, just went to go and be with some friends of mine, and they just started playing football. And I ended up coming home and saying to my mum, I want to play football. I want to do what they do. I just want to play, just get in a team. Joined the Sunday League team, joined Croydon Athletic, which was my local Sunday League team. Just enjoyed playing with the people that were my friends at the time, and ended up playing for my borough, which was Croydon. And then we had a scout who used to work at Croydon Athletic. His name is Ken Fisher, who was an Arsenal scout, and he had contacted my dad about me going there, which I didn't know at the time. Because I was on the books of Fulham, I'd end up going to Fulham via a Saturday coaching sort of academy thing. It was called Curver, I think, Curver Academy or Curver Coaching. And then literally my dad just said to me one day, we're going to go up to Arsenal and train with the boys there. And it just signed from there. I just ended up signing papers with Arsenal and was there from 11 years old up until 18.
And how was that feeling, obviously, signing for Arsenal at the time? How did your family feel?
It's obviously a big thing at the time. Obviously, Arsenal, a big club. They've been a big club since then. In hindsight, maybe it wasn't the best thing. Maybe I should have stayed at Fulham. Maybe had more opportunity. But when you're a young lad, you want to play for the best club, and it's a bit of prestige, a bit of bragging rights, if you might say, that you're playing for such a club. But my family behind me, obviously, it's a North London club. So obviously going, training, living in Croydon and going to Arsenal's academy, or shall I say where we trained at Highbury, was a long journey, twice a week. So my dad would take me. So obviously I had the support of my family to do that. And as you get older, you start becoming a bit more independent. Obviously having to get trains on your own and stuff like that. But always had support of my family and my friends in that instance.
And just on that, in terms of you getting trained by yourself, like obviously you making sure that you were getting to Arsenal on time and planning that. How did your family gave you lots of support in terms of you traveling by yourself, but I gather you wanted to do that. You wanted to travel there. You wanted to make that commitment.
Yeah, I used to, obviously when I was at year 7 at school, which is at 11 years old, I'd leave, literally run from my class to my mum's car, who would have my training kit in the car, and my granddad would be there. And I'd get a train straight from East Croydon straight to training. And then my dad would bring me home. And then as we got older, at that stage, I don't know if Arsenal still do this. A couple clubs still do it. We all got enrolled to the same school, which was in Walthamstow. And from year 10 and 11, I was getting trained to school in the morning. So obviously you can imagine going to North London for school. I'll be leaving my house at like 10 to 6 in the morning to get a train. And it's all... It was never a problem with me getting there and being. It's something that's within you if you want to be that sort of way. I've always kept that way. On my timekeeping, I was never late. I'd always maybe be a bit too early, but that's just. I think there's something about that you should always be punctual, and done that for 2 years. Obviously, kind of ground me because obviously in the next 2 years of being a YT, we would be going. I'd have to get trained to go to training up in Shenley, which is obviously the other end of the Piccadilly line, so it was always the same sort of thing. But that's always stood me in for good stead for other clubs I've been at for getting to training and being punctual.
Obviously, us playing together now at Kingstonian, I can vouch for that. You're always first there for match day and for training, to be fair, getting your rubs and what else. But was that sort of put on you like from your parents? Was that instilled in you from your parents, or did you learn that sort of? Was that instilled from you from Arsenal, making like putting the emphasis on being on time and that sort of personality trait and character building?
You know what? I can't even say that's from my family. I don't actually know where that comes from. I've always just had from a really early age. I would be anxious about getting to training after people. So I would hate. I would hate a couple of times when I was younger. And obviously, my dad would bring me from my school to training at Highbury. We might be late because of traffic, and I would always hate the feeling of walking into a training session midway or 10 minutes into a training session, and everybody looking at me, like, and being like, he's late or whatever. I would always hate that feeling. So it always stood me that I just didn't like that. And obviously, once I went into the professional game, I think once you go into a professional club, you don't understand the time. I was always good at timekeeping, but it wasn't a stickler for me. But as soon as I moved to the full-time game and I was in a professional dressing room, lateness is fines. Lateness is frowned upon. And that was another reason I would never be late. I would always make sure I was early. I would see the sort of punishments that you get if you were late, the sort of the stigma attached to you if you were that's always being late. You even see it now with the world-class players. They talk about Mbappe being late for a couple of meetings, or Premier League players, and you get that sort of reputation that you're maybe not dedicated, or you're not as dedicated as you should be. And at the end of the day, there's no reason to be late if there's no reason to be late. If you've got enough time to get there, there's never a reason to be late.
Yeah, especially when you take ownership of yourself. Like you said, like when you're younger, traveling. My brother was at Arsenal for a little while as well, and I remember my mum dragging me I was at Palace at the time, and I had to go with my brother to Walthamstow on a Tuesday and Thursday night, and we never got into about 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. Again, we grew up in Fortneath and Croydon, similar to you, so it was. And it's like my mum and my dad, they installed that in us about not being late and being respectful and being there on time, and yeah, like you said, you carry it on. Just in terms of the Arsenal Academy, what sort of was the environment like? What was the training like? What was the sort of structure? So you training Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and playing Sundays, obviously at a younger age, and then you end up playing Saturday mornings.
Yeah, we obviously, when we went to the school, the whole thing of us going to the same school was that we trained. Like we basically become full time from a 14-year-old. So when we went to year 10, which I think is 14, 14, 15, we trained Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So we trained Monday and Tuesday, Monday and Wednesday. We missed the way they worked our schedule. We took religious studies out of our curriculum, so we wouldn't do it. So the way they set the school out is that before lunch on a Monday and Wednesday, we basically left and we'd go to train during that session, during that class and lunch. And then we'd come back for like the afternoon session. So we were training 2 hours on a Monday, Wednesday, and then we would train on a Tuesday, Thursday after school for another 2.5 hours. And Friday was a rest day because most of us were playing in youth, like the under 17s on the Saturday, or our fixtures on the Sunday. So from 14, 15, we had a full-time sort of schedule. We weren't like doing it 2 times a week. We were doing it 4 or 5, and you can see the difference. When we were playing teams at that age, we were head and shoulders above people technically, because that's all we worked on, our technique. We would do all sorts. We had a manager at that stage called Andy McDermott, who was a little bit out there, but he had a lot of skipping you'd be doing skipping while you're keeping a football up and things like that to get your coordination. It was a lot out of the box, ahead of his time and a bit kooky, but he was very good for us.
Yeah, so even that, like when I was at Mill, and even for me at year 10 and 11, we just had a day out of school on a Friday. We didn't have, like you, obviously, you weren't put into a specific school. We weren't training all together. Obviously, that's the difference in level between the clubs, and probably finances available as well to do that. But yeah, Arsenal growing up, that was always, obviously people talk about rivalries and local derbies and stuff, and Mill was Palace for us as a youngster. But for me, I always look forward to going and play away at Arsenal because the pitches were a joke, and the top teams, Tottenham and everywhere like that. So yeah, no, the facilities must have been second to none.
It's a blessing and a curse at the same time, because you're a bit pampered. And this is what you go in, once you go full time, you're at Shenley. Obviously, when we were 15, 16, we're at Hale End. which at the time was a brand new facility. And now when I've drove past Hayland recently, it's even on a different level. It's unbelievable there. It's like a first team training ground, like a Premier League training ground. The facilities are unreal. But we would be at Shenley, pitches would be like carpet, everything there, 3-course meal after lunch for lunch, everything was there for you. But then once you hit that block where they say, look, we're not going to give you the next contract, now reality hits in, and you go to places. And I remember leaving and going to QPR and Millwall, and my first place was QPR, and they used to train where Wasps train in Ealing. And I remember walking into the building, it was cold, the balls felt like they were made of stone. You had to wash your own kit. And it was like, what's this? What's going on here? And it's a wake up call that it's not
reality.
Not like that every day. You don't get food laid on for you like you do at us. You don't have this pitch. The pitches are all cut up and muddy.
Lovely,
and it's a reality check. You don't get that unless you're at the Premier League in the top level, which is the percentages of making a professional footballer in the Premier League is 0.0001% of the population. It's a reality check, and I think that's why a lot of people go by the wayside and end up dropping out of football, because they can't make that transition of going back down into something that's a bit more rough and ready.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of, especially what we've seen it playing, well, more so me than you, playing non-league, and like loan players coming from pro clubs can't really deal with it, can't really deal with the environment. Like you said, the pitches, the facilities, it's totally different, and it's the real world.
Yeah.
And like you said the word pampered, and I think a lot of players are pampered in those top professional academies. And then, yeah, like you said, when they do have to drop out because they don't get offered a contract or released or whatever it might be, they can't cope and end up giving up altogether. But just on the academy, mate, through Arsenal, just one question that I'm keen to. When was the transition from development into, right, it's a real focus on winning games now? Was it, what can you remember what sort of age it was, or was it always about development?
You know what? I the only time I can remember remembering thinking we are like we're programmed to win, or we're dedicated to one team, was the FA Youth Cup. That was the only time. Other time, it was kind of like Saturday comes, you don't know if you're playing. At that time, it was under 17s, under 19s. You don't know if you're in the under 17s team. You don't know if you're playing for the under 19s. You might be pulled out of both to play the reserves midweek. So it was all about progression. It wasn't really about the winning or that sort of mentality. It was always the reserves. When you played for the reserves, it was about winning. You'd be in Tuesday or Wednesday fixture. You'd be in the morning to do your prep, and then you'd be going to the game wherever it was with the reserves. But in the youth team, there wasn't the sort of. I think there's a bit more of a winning mentality now, because they've got a lot more. It's got a bit more prestigious, and a lot more clubs, because they're spending the money they're spending on players. To justify that money being spent, they've got to win the championships at respective age groups.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. And sort of just if you can remember back then, like your first memories of breaking into Arsenal, even up till now, to be honest, what did football mean to you?
I think once you get into it and you're into it, like from when I was mostly from when I went to Fulham as a kid, you start thinking, this is what I want to do. There's nothing else in your brain. Everything is geared towards football. All you want to do at school is PE, because you want to get out and be active. You want to be the best at PE. You just start wanting to become best at everything that's active. And I've got that mindset of I wanted to be the best, but you can push yourself, but there's always going to be someone who is better than you, but ability-wise. There are people out there that I know that their ability is unbelievable, but sometimes it's not. Their head ain't screwed on, and they haven't got the mentality where they want to work and push themselves or be dedicated. And I think that's the difference between a lot of players. I think if you went down, I've said this to you before, you could go down to a power league on a Tuesday night, Thursday night, and you could look in the cage and see some players that you're like, wow, who does he play for? He must play for a pro club somewhere. And they don't. They're just playing for a Tooting and Mitcham or someone like that, because they haven't got the mentality to be able to do it for 52 weeks a year. and be able to get into training, play on the Saturday, and keep it at high standards.
Yeah, definitely. And just on that, obviously, what do you think sort of stood you apart from the others? Was it something like you just spoke about, in terms of ability as well as mindset and application?
Yeah, I would 100%. I made the most out of my career through hard work and being dedicated. I in my Arsenal youth team, if you spoke to any of the parents at that time or any of the players and said, name me, put a list of the players that will play at the highest level down to the players that will play at the lowest level, my name would have mostly been near the bottom. I had people in my team that are playing for England under 19s and under 21s at the time. Now some of them are PTs.
Yeah.
They didn't go on and play any games. But when I left Arsenal, I had the mentality that I still wanted to work and grow after them and do it. Where some of them left and they didn't have that hunger to still carry on. And I ended up dropping to Gillingham, and even had my setbacks at Gillingham. I played well there. Obviously, didn't work out with a new manager, and I ended up going into non-league in the conference. But then I worked hard there, and I ended up getting my chance back at Southend, which kicked on my career again to play in the league again.
Yeah, just on that, obviously when you did leave Arsenal and then you went to Gillingham, and obviously like you said, you didn't play as much as you wanted to, and it didn't work out for you mentally. And what did that sort of, the challenges that come with that mentally as well as obviously physically by not playing, that you had to overcome?
It's a hard one, because when I left Arsenal, I was never going to play first team at Arsenal. I know you're at Arsenal, but I was never thinking I'm going to break into the first team. I was kind of a realist. I knew I was going to get to a point and mostly end up leaving. But when I went to Gillingham, I saw where when I first went in there to train, I knew I was good enough to play for the first team already then and there. But it was about showing the coaches and showing the managers that I was worth a shot. And even at that stage, they were still sceptical, because it's a men's game. They don't want to take risks on young lads, especially, we're talking 10, 15 years ago. There weren't many young lads playing in the league. It was more grown men, and it was a brutal league. So I had to go into training. I had to work hard, and I ended up getting my shot and played quite a lot that year. But as you said, if a new manager comes in or circumstances change, I didn't end up playing as much the next year or the year after, and I was a bit in and out. It does become a drag on your mental state, because every Friday you're thinking, am I going to play? We've just lost at the weekend. You don't play. And then it becomes a cycle, and you get yourself up, then you drop down, you get yourself up. And the best thing that happened to me was actually leaving, because I was able to play for another manager that really liked me, and he was the one who ended up bringing me to Southend. So as well in football, it's a bit about luck. Sometimes you get a manager that believes in you and brings you places, and there's been plenty of players that can be testament to that.
Yeah, and when you know, like you just said about the mental struggle that you had to face about not being picked and not knowing if you're going to be in this and even in the squad, or who did you have around you to support you with that in terms of the mental side of it?
I didn't have anyone. Obviously, I had my family that would obviously be there, but they only know as much as you tell them. So when you come home, you can testify to this. When you're pissed off from football and that, sometimes you don't want to talk to your at your time, maybe your girlfriend as a youngster, as a girlfriend, or your mum and dad. They're like, just leave me alone. Look, you don't know, you don't understand. So you'd end up just coming home. I'd end up going to my bedroom and just sleeping, or just like being out, going to my friend's house and just trying to get myself away from it. But on the flip side, that's not the best way to prepare. Ain't best to go to your friend's house till 12 o'clock at night and be playing computer, then come up. So it's a cycle that you're not in the best state to then go back and prove yourself to anyone. So it was tough, especially back then. There wasn't any of this like mental health sort of thing. You're seen as a weakness back then. If people were going in and complaining, they're being seen as a weakness, that you're not mentally strong to be a footballer.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we can both say, even now, as much as we wouldn't want to admit it, obviously we're a bit older now, it still hurts. We've both been fuming after games in this past season where we haven't come out with the result we wanted, or we think someone hasn't put a shift in as much as anyone else. And winning and losing, it affects you. Obviously your highs and lows, and even now, you're right. I come home and I'm like, if I've played bad, even if I play bad and the team have won, I'm not happy. I don't want to talk to anyone.
Yeah.
And
My wife would tell you, she would check the scores, or if she was at a home game, if we lost, she would just know Saturday night is a write-off. Don't talk to me. All I'm thinking about is what has just happened. If I play bad or whatever, I'm identifying my weaknesses in my game in that particular game, and then she would know not to bother talking to me until the Saturday, where I might have cooled down a little bit. But even then, I'm just thinking about Monday. I want to be back into training to put things right.
Yeah. And through all of this, through your different experiences and your obviously managers having different opinions on you, and like you said, finding it in the darker times of not playing and not knowing if you're playing, and then when you were playing, did you ever fall out of love with football? Did you ever think this, like, did it ever cross your mind like, oh, I need to have a break, or this ain't for me now?
I never.
Or was you so, like, me knowing you, I know you're so head driven, and like you said, you work hard and you know what you want and you won't give up easily, and you'll pull your socks up, and if, do you know what I mean, to dig in and go.
I think the closest I come, when I left Gillingham, I went to Salisbury, who were in the conference, and we had a great team there. Like, our team, a lot of them ended up going into league at the same time as me. Matt Tubbs, Liam Feeney, ended up going and having really good careers as well. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to go back into league. I had a lot of phone calls from the managers that summer, but nothing happened. As a lot of footballers would tell you, they get loads of calls from managers, tell you they want you. You start thinking about things moving there, and then nothing happened. And literally, my friend Danny Webb, who ended up being Leyton Orient manager for a bit, he rang me. He was my teammate, and he was like, to come to Bath, who were part time. Now, can you imagine the distance from Croydon to Bath on a Tuesday and Thursday?
Yeah.
And I was travelling on a Tuesday and Thursday to Bath. I don't know why I done it. It was literally out of the blue. I don't know. I should have just left it, but I just think I wanted to still. Just, I don't know, just wanted to sign somewhere. Ended up agreeing to sign there. And I literally come home on a train, and I thought to myself, I don't know if this is for me. Maybe I need to start getting a job. Maybe I need to look at football as a part-time thing. And it's a supplementary income rather than my main income. And I need to concentrate on something else, because my whole life, I never concentrated on anything. I never gone down the path of being a plumber or being a surveyor. I hadn't done anything. So I literally was looking at that sort of road, and then I was literally signed there 4 days, and my ex-manager went to Southend and said, "You're coming with me." So I had to wiggle my way out of a contract at Bath to get to Southend, which is a blessing, because I ended up going there, and I found the manager in Paul Sturrock there, who believed in me for 3 years, and I had mostly the best spell of my career.
Yeah, and just on that, just for anyone watching this, just shows the fall for obviously being at Arsenal, making it as a professional at Gillingham, having to drop out of the league, playing conference football, playing in a step lower for Bath, and then you still getting that luck and luck that you've made yourself as well. But then someone giving you that opportunity, and like, there's a key message in that, is that never giving up. If you believe in yourself or you want it that much, don't give up.
Yeah, honestly, you just never know where people are looking. I can tell you that I know players that have been on holiday and been playing football in Ibiza in a little five-a-side, have been spotted by managers and gone to League One clubs.
Fucking hell.
I can tell. So sometimes, no matter where you are, if you're just doing things right and you're not acting a fool, there might be someone watching. So these people, that's my whole thing. There's people that will work hard or show things for cameras, or when people are watching. It's the people that are doing things when there's no one watching, when they're there working hard. As they say with like Michael Jordan, people that they're working when people weren't watching them. That they're the people that are the most successful. And all you can do is do that. And if things don't come off, then you've got no excuses. You know you've done everything and you left everything on the table.
Yeah, no regrets. Yeah, definitely. And just on that, like, obviously growing up and obviously being so head driven in football, what sacrifices did you have to make along your career? Obviously with maybe from friends or going out or whatever it might have been?
Listen, I've made so many sacrifices, and I half regret making them because they're experiences that I'll never be able to get back. And sometimes you think, yeah, that one worked, that one benefited me, and sometimes you don't. I've missed weddings. I missed my mother-in-law's wedding in Italy to go back into training at Lateness a day early, which I ended up leaving 3 or 4 weeks later. So you think that one, I could have had an experience there that I will never get back. I missed the birth of my first child for playing in the game. I missed my daughter's christening because we ended up getting a pre-season friendly with West Ham arranged for the same day, so I couldn't get out of that. I think it's tough because you as a footballer, you half want to make them sacrifices because you don't want to let people, and you don't want to give people excuses. I've been there where you sit there and think, I don't want not to play in this game, because if someone else plays in this game and plays well, your position's up for grabs. And that's why I hate missing training. I've hated missing games. When I've been told that I'm out the team for whatever reason, you're now giving someone else an opportunity to take that position. And at the end of the day, they're affecting your livelihood. If you're not playing, it's affecting your livelihood. It's selfish. But when people have bills and mortgages to pay, you need to be playing. And it's definitely something that I've watched shows. I think there's a show on BT that Paradise Papers, I think it might be called, where it's talking about people that have obviously given up sacrifices and football, and the way that football can sometimes spit them back out. But it's the sacrifice you make at the time because you choose that football. That's the thing you want to do, and that's what you want to. That's where your heart sets. You make them sacrifices.
And now you're repaying all of that to your missus. You owe her a lot. You missed a lot.
No, listen. I don't. She don't let me live down the missing of the birth. I get slaughtered for that regularly.
No, brilliant, mate. And just finally, before we move on to the quick fire round, just obviously for our young players that are associated with KNR or any young players watching this, or any players, obviously even older players that are playing whatever level, just what advice would you give them as a player?
I think as a player, I think first of all, as a player, I think you've got, everyone says they're putting 100% in, but there's always something else you can do. If you're sitting there and you're thinking that you're not doing enough, you're not doing enough. You can always, punctuality, you should never be late. There's no reason to be late. If you leave everything on the table, you're going to have no excuses at the end of the day. But also, as I said to you, my one thing I would say to young players is, don't put all your eggs into one basket of being a professional footballer. Give it your all and don't have any excuses, but also have something that you've got as a backup. You've got a secondary interest or career that you're leading towards. Because even playing in the football league or playing in the national league, or even playing for Kingstonian or a club like that, there's only a certain amount of players that can put them shirts on and get in squads. So the amount of chance that you're going to make money out of playing football is slim. So you should always have a secondary revenue to make sure that you're okay in life. Because at the end of the day, football is not the be-all and end-all. There's people out there making good earnings and good money out of careers that they've chose apart from football. So I would always say, make sure that you're not just concentrating on football. Give it your all, make sure you don't leave anything on the table, but you have something in the background, so you get your grades at school and you're getting your education.
Yeah, that's a key message, mate. Definitely 100% agree with that. And I think more so now, I think professionals are aware of that. You hear of professionals now doing university courses alongside them still playing it, and so that's definitely, and especially for our young players watching this, that's a big thing, to take school seriously and make sure that they're learning and taking their education first before thinking about football. Obviously, it comes with both. If you put 100% into your education, yeah, then you're going to reap the rewards as much as you are from football. Probably more so than from football, because we know how ruthless the football industry is.
Football's ruthless, and the amounts of money that Premier League and Championship are massive wages. But once you drop to League One, League Two, the money is good money, but it's not life-changing money. So you're going to need a career once you retire, or you're going to need a income revenue once you retire. So someone who has been a plumber their whole life will have a better life once they hit 35 or retirement. They've already got their life set for till they're 60 or they retire. Most footballers retire in their 30s and don't have anything to go into. I played with a boy, Bradley Pritchard, who he ended up getting a law degree while he was playing football. And I'd see him on coaches, on away games, doing his studying. And that he was lucky enough to know that what he wanted to do. There's a lot of people that still don't. Me, to this day, I still don't know what I want to do after football. And it kind of burns me, the amount of miles I've done in coaches where I could have done a course or got something I was interested in, and I never did. So from experience, I would definitely tell people to definitely get something as a backup.
Yeah, definitely, mate. That's a vital message, like I just said. Can't reiterate that enough. So listen, just end with a bit of a quick fire round. I'm sure our viewers will. This will be interesting for them. So let's kick off with best player that you've played with and against.
Best player played with Cesc Fabregas.
Oh, that's a name drop. That's a big name drop.
Harry Kane.
So Cesc Fabregas and Harry Kane, yeah?
Yeah.
Just quickly, mate, sum up why both of them.
Well, obviously people can know why they were. Cesc Fabregas at the time, he was 16, and he would, when he trained with us at 16, he was a good player, but he didn't stand out. But then he would go and train with the under 18s and do the same. He would look good there, and then he would go to the reserves and start bossing the reserves. And you were like, he didn't even do that for the 16s. And then you would just see him in the first team training, and he was bossing the first team training sessions. And then obviously you went on to see you couldn't get the ball off him. His passing and vision, like his one touch and two touch passing, he just knew where everybody was. And that's what you see his game's based on now. He's not the most athletic player in the world, but his vision and his creativity with passing was second to none. Harry Kane, played against him when he was at Tottenham, coming through at Tottenham, and he never, and I think as you see now in the games now, he doesn't set the world. He's not like he looks the best, but when he's in the box, anything that dropped to him was in the back of the net. He was physically strong, deceptively strong. He doesn't look like a big boy, but he was deceptively strong. Just had everything. Even then, he's obviously gone on to different heights to even then, but at the time you could see there was something special about him.
Decent, mate. Best ground you've played at?
This one's for Robert Tolfrey. It's Celtic Park or Wembley.
Ah, decent. Fucking hell, that's two decent ones there. Best manager, we might know this already from what you just said, but best manager you've worked with?
Best one would be Paul Sturrock, purely because I had 3 great years with him at Southend, and I had the trust of him in terms of he would talk to me, he would ask my opinion, he knew what he was going to get from me. I knew if I had 1 or 2 bad games on the row, my place went up for grabs because he knew what he would get from me. And I think it's not to have your positions secured that you can never be dropped, but just to know that you got the faith in the manager that he will stick by you. And I think that helped me get the best performances. I weren't feeling like I was on trial every game, and if I made a mistake, I was going to be dropped out of the team. So I had a very good relationship with him, and even close to be Ian Hedman, who I had at Leyton Orient, who I had the same sort of relationship with, and he just ended up. His time was too short at Leyton Orient. He ended up getting sacked for no reason, which was obviously a disaster for our team at the time.
Best side that you've played in, and why?
Best side, I would say the Southend side that we just missed out on promotion, automatic promotion. So my second season, I believe, at Southend, we missed out on promotion, automatic promotion by a point on the last day of the season to Crawley, and we lost to Crewe in the playoffs, and that was mostly the best side. We had a great changing room, and we just knew our jobs. Everybody knew what they were doing. We were a well-oiled machine, and we should have really actually got promoted that year. We kind of slipped off middle of the season, which ended up costing us.
And if you had to look back at your career, obviously you're still playing, but like one standout moment for you, so you're one of your best moments in football.
Winning PFA right back of the year when I was at Southend the last season I was there. So obviously
you made team of the year as well, didn't you?
So that makes team of the year. So that was it. That's just like obviously being regarded by your fellow boys you played against that year, saying that obviously that guy's the best right back. That being in this league this year was obviously a nice feeling and a bit of recognition for hard work that you've put in.
Yeah, that's decent. That's one of them. Obviously, like we have player of the season being recognised by your peers, but obviously on a much larger scale because you've been recognised by everyone you played against in that league.
Yeah, it's a bit difficult. Some people vote for their mates and stuff like that. So sometimes, but you virtually if you'll know what a good you'll know when someone shouldn't be in there but majority of the players in that team will be deserving of their position. And obviously, when you get it from your fellow players, like obviously we got the players player and stuff that's going on with us. Just getting a bit of recognition from your teammates to say, yeah, you know what, he's been the best man this year. Is obviously it goes some way, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And before I ask you the last question, mate, with the quick fire, I forgot to mention obviously your move to Kilmarnock, and just wanted to ask you sort of what was it like playing, obviously in a different league and country and being away from home.
As I've told you, that was mostly the hardest time of my career. I went there. It wasn't my first choice of place to go. A lot of things didn't happen for me that year that I thought was going to happen. But when they come in, I was ecstatic to go out there and try a new league and obviously play against the players and the level I was going to go and play at. It was a lot tougher than I thought it was going to be. I knew obviously teams like Celtic and Aberdeen would be good, but the teams like St Mirren I thought would be League 2-ish sort of level. But it wasn't. All the players up there are strong, fit. I think you're seeing a lot more English players going up there now from League 1 and League 2 in the Championship. When I went up there were many that were there. I was maybe one of the only ones who had played in the Football League had gone up there, and now people are starting to see how good of a league it is. But it was just tough, just being away from the family. I didn't want to bring the family up there. My wife was doing her degree, so changing unis was going to be difficult. So I didn't really want to upheaval her with all that. So I ended up going on my own, which made it tough for me, especially when I think around February time, I had a little run in and I wasn't in the team. And obviously, as we said, when you're not in the team and you're not playing, especially in a league up like that, where it's not many midweek games because there's not enough teams. They play Saturday. So Saturday comes, if they've won, now again Saturday you're not going to play. So you're basically working on the Monday to Friday, knowing that you're not going to be starting no matter what you do in training. And it was very tough on my mental health because I was in a place on my own and we didn't have a great team effort, like in terms of changing room. Like it wasn't a good changing room at all. Like boys just it was very isolated. Everybody was just doing their own thing. A lot of foreigners. There was a lot of Dutch players, Nigerians, Spanish. So they ended up just going back to their flats. We all lived in the same apartment on the harbour in Glasgow. No one went and saw each other. Literally, everybody drove their own cars. Everybody drove their individual cars to training and games, and no one even bothered sharing or anything.
I think that's something that I think we spoke about it this season, how invaluable it is to have a good change room and have that good team spirit and team bond, and especially playing non-league, obviously after a day's work and then going to play football, how much you rely on your teammates to get you through and in that season.
That's what we were going to. We had some great players in there, like obviously talking about some of the best players I played with. That Chris Boyd, who was a big striker for us at the time, and obviously a massive Scottish player. He was unbelievable. He's one of the best finishers I've ever seen, and he was a massive character in the changing room. But apart from him, you had a clique of strong players. Obviously, at the time, I wasn't a part of that clique, if you know what I mean. They're boys that are like big hitters who had been big hitters at clubs. Sammy Clingan, who was a massive player at Nottingham Forest and Coventry. And they had their own little kind of power group. And then it was kind of like you had the Nigerians who would be with each other. You had the Dutch in one corner, and the Spanish guy would be over there. And I ended up being kind of with the young boys, like the young Scottish boys who were there, who were like good players, but I didn't really have. There was no one that I really kind of gelled with there. It was very tough because you're going into training and not really enjoying it. You're going in and just your own.
Do you think that obviously you're only there for a year, right? Was you there a year?
I signed a 2-year deal, but I ended up staying only a year.
And was that? Do you think that was a big factor in that, in terms of not feeling that? Obviously, it's not your home, but not feeling at home and feeling that sort of team ethic and team spirit and team bond, and sort of to get you, you know what I mean? Like make you look forward even more to going in and training and playing and wanting to be in a different country.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. I would go to training, come home, I'd literally walk through the door and get into my pajamas, like my onesie, and just lay in bed. And that was me. I had literally a nap. I literally was doing, so I'd be watching TV programs that I knew were already on. Like, it was all set out just to waste the day. Then it was training again. Then obviously you got your day off on a Wednesday, which makes the week drag longer. Then obviously off the Saturday on the game, I'd come home, fly home. I'd only be home for the Sunday. I'd be going back Monday morning on the first flight. And being away from the family, and that, it was just, obviously I lost while I was up there in April. Yeah, April, my mum passed away, so obviously I had to come home. And losing my mum was a thing. So I said to that, I didn't want to be away from my family anymore, like my wife and my kids. My wife was willing to come back up with me for the second year, but I weren't enjoying it. And I just said, obviously, if I had to go back up, I would have gone back up and try and make a go of it. But it was a blessing in disguise that I was able to sort something out. And I had another manager in Joe Dunn at Colchester who was desperate to sign me. And I was able to move back home and be back where I needed to be. Because when you've got support, you need support around you. And when I was up there, I didn't have any support. As much as FaceTime and phoning people you can do, there was no one physically there to actually be with. And it was getting a lot.
Yeah, definitely. It's invaluable having someone there to talk to face to face, and even through this isolation, mate, having these Zoom calls with people, you don't realize how many, obviously with my coaches or even our parents or kids, whatever it might be, even us now, you don't realize how good it is to see someone and actually obviously live and speak to them and catch up. So
even my daughter's obviously got school friends that she hasn't seen for like 6-7 weeks now, whatever the lockdown's been. So she's clucking at doing a Zoom call or FaceTime with some of her friends, and she'll be on the phone for like 3 hours. Yeah. And I'll be sitting now, I'm sitting there thinking, what is she doing? And then I'll go in the bedroom and she's showing her friend the work she's done today and stuff like that. They're just on there just doing whatever because they just want to see another friend. They don't want to see their mum and dad and their little brother anymore. They want to see their friends that they go to school with, and any little bit of interaction is good for them.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Well, listen, last but not least, if there's what's the best bit of advice you were told or given, and who is it from?
Oh, best bit of advice.
Maybe as a player growing up or a player in later stages.
The best bit of advice, or it maybe is the best bit of advice, and also it was maybe the first time anyone ever put something in me like this. I was playing for Gillingham, and we had Neil Harris on loan from Nottingham Forest, and he basically told me, Sean, when you get a chance, I want the ball in the box. I don't care if it's a crap cross, if it hits the first man. I want you, when you get the ball, take a touch, get the ball in the box. That's what I live on. So the first 5 or so games, you put the balls in the box. But now I'm getting a run of games in there. Now I'm starting to get more and more confidence, and I'm feeling myself a little bit. So now I'm a young boy. I'm going up. I'm doing step overs. I'm chopping. I'm doing whatever. I'm losing the ball half the time, but I'm enjoying myself. And we were playing. I can't remember who it was, and I didn't cross the ball when he wanted it. And in no uncertain terms, he had a go at me, and I said my own piece back, which we won't say. I walked back in the change room, and before I could sit down on my seat, there was an altercation. And in no uncertain terms, he said, "Don't ever talk to me like that again, and get the ball in the box." And from that moment there, I put the ball in the box, and I always remember that I'll never, from that moment, especially players that are older than me. I was obviously virtually everyone was older than me. I showed them respect, and I made sure that I was always respectful to them, whatever they've done in the game. But especially someone like Neil Harris, who had done so much in the game and been a Millwall top scorer and all of that. And all the advice they're giving me is not just advice for them. It's not to benefit them solely. It's also to benefit me. So obviously that always stuck in my mind.
Yeah, brilliant, mate. What a top player as well. And yeah, no, perfect, mate. Well, listen, I appreciate you taking the time to tell us your story, and hope you stay safe and the family as well. And we'll catch up soon.
Yeah, no problem, Cavs.
Cheers, mate.
Speak to you in a bit, bro.